up ahead. Affirmative 612.
Welcome back into the podcast, folks. Thanks for hanging out with Scott and I here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast as we talk investing, finance, and retirement and all that good kind of stuff and things that go along the way, Scott. And, in honor of you going back to school for your big MBA there, and your kids are going back to school this week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They went back this morning. So
okay.
Andrea is probably doing a little jig at home right now and thrilled to have all 7 of them out of the house.
I bet she is. Well, I'm going to give you a quiz today and our listeners. Yeah. In honor of that.
Do it.
So, yeah. So we're going to have a little fun today here. I've got a little, I don't know. Are you, do you know some of this stuff, right? Little retirement planning quiz, if you will. Not too complicated. Multiple choice. I'll make it easy on you. Maybe a true or false along the way. And you can see how you do, and the viewers and listeners can see how they do. And if you know some of the answers to this stuff, that's a good sign. You're on the right path, right? So we'll have a little bit of fun this week. So let's dive in, knock it out, see what we can come up with. All right. So what age, Scott Osborn, can you receive full Social Security benefits if you were born after 1960? Is it A, 59 and a half, B, 62, C, 65, or D, 67?
Well, good question. And especially for our folks who are getting closer to retirement, this is something that you're going to think of a little bit more predominantly. And each of these numbers that you brought up has a significant meaning to it. So I'll kind of give us the breakdown here. So answer A you gave was 59 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with Social Security benefits, but 59 and a half is when we can tap into our pre-tax IRAs or our Roth IRAs without a penalty. So obviously on the pre-tax IRA, we still have to pay the taxable income on the distribution, but there's no penalty once we hit 59 and a half. So that's a big age, especially for pilots who are looking to maybe retire before their mandatory retirement date. That's a good one to keep in mind, because if you're planning on living out of that 401k or the IRA, you want to make sure that you're at least 59 and a half to avoid some of the penalties. Okay. Age 62 does have to do something with Social Security. That's when we can first file for Social Security, age 62. Age 65 is a big one too. That's when we get access to Medicare. Additionally, that's when our pilots hit at least in our current law, their mandatory retirement date. So 65 is a big number, big planning number. But the correct answer here is D. 67 years old is when we get full Social Security benefits. But it's important to note that taking it before you get your full is not necessarily a bad thing. You just pay an early payment penalty of about 8% reduced benefit per year. Now, on the flip side of that, you can also wait until age 70, which we frequently will recommend for folks based off of their retirement income plan. Wait until age 70, and you get a premium benefit, or basically a bonus of 8% per year that you wait. So, once you compound it, it's about, a little bit more than 30% more than what you're going to get at your full retirement age. So it can be a good chunk. But again, you got to look at longevity and things of that nature. That's you're kind of building into your plan on whether you want to wait or not to take it longer.
Yeah, and 1960 was a little bit of a trick in there. For most of us, that's going to be 67. But like my brother retired last year, for example, his birthday was before then, and he was like 66 in 6 months or 7 months or something like that. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, definitely attention in the details of the question. So good job on that. All right. What is the maximum annual contribution limit for a traditional or a Roth IRA for individuals aged 50 and above in the current calendar year of 2025? Is it A, $6,000, B, $7,000, C, $8,000, or D, $9,000?
So this is an interesting one, right? Because it's a little bit of a loaded question. So first off, just looking at the contribution limits for traditional and Roth IRAs, over 50, it's C, $8,000.
Correct.
Under 50, it's B, $7,000. But it doesn't mean just because that's your age that you can contribute that much. You got to look at certain things and be aware of, income limits, other assets you might have. For a lot of our pilots, many of them think, hey, I make too much money and I can't do a Roth IRA. Well, we have the backdoor Roth IRA that we can still do. Or you can continue to make non-deductible IRA contributions which can still have some tax advantages to them. So,
yeah.
There's still things to do there. And one of the biggest things to take away from this too is what you're doing outside of the 401k. Inside of the 401k, you also have these catch-up contributions. So if you're over 50 in your 401k, you can contribute an extra $8,000 on top of the $23,500 that you can contribute. We know that the airlines are going to do their contribution separate. And there's a total limit of 70 grand as we've filmed this today. $70,000 is the maximum, all sources, the airline, yourself, etc. We always recommend trying to at least maximize the employee contributions going in there as well. But if you're from age 60 to 63, you also have the super catch up, which is $11,250 instead of the $8,000. So it can get a little complicated in there, but you want to make sure that if you're over 50, you want to make sure you're taking a look, logging into the 401k. That's something we can help you with, and just really look in there, make sure you're taking advantage of the maximum contributions that you can make.
Well done. Well done again. And yeah, great point. You know, there's a lot of little nuance to some of this stuff. You want to make sure that you're running that information past your financial professional so that you're maximizing, especially depending on what your age is. So good stuff indeed. All right. You're doing very well. So I can see why why you do what you do.
Thanks.
Let's do the next one here. What type of retirement account requires you to take required minimum distributions? The lovely RMDs. Is it A, brokerage account, B, a 401k, C, an HSA, or D, a Roth 401k?
Ooh, this one can be a little tricky too. So a lot of times when we say brokerage account, that can get a little confusing for people because they're like, well, I have an IRA at Schwab, and isn't that a brokerage account? It's like, well, I mean, it's an account at a brokerage firm, so that is a little confusing. But when we say brokerage account, we basically mean like an individual or a joint taxable account, brokerage account, non-IRA is basically what we're
correct.
Saying. Those do not require any distributions. The Roth 401k, even though it's in a retirement plan and even though it's in that IRA kind of family,
it's got Roth in front of it. Yep.
Also, no distributions. It's got Roth in front of it.
Yep.
HSA, same thing, right? Those are there for the healthcare expenses that we're going to incur in retirement. But yes, absolutely, a pre-tax 401k account is going to have required minimum distributions in it that, again, as of right now, kick in when you're 73 years old. Or 75 for those of us, depending on your age. That are a little younger. That's right. The RMDs is definitely something to plan for, but it requires having a long-term mindset. And I'll leave you, and I know we got a couple other questions to get to, but I'll leave you with a couple things to think about for the listeners. If you think, on average, the average pilot dies at 80 and the average spouse lives to 92, that's 12 years on average that spouse could be on their own, living off of your pre-tax assets as a single filer. And so this is if you've ever heard of the widower's tax trap, this is a little bit of what we're talking about. So RMDs seem like way out there. It's not really something to worry about right now. I'm not saying you got to lose any sleep over it, but it might make sense to diversify a little bit between tax classifications of our money too. Maybe we want a little bit of Roth money. We want some brokerage account money. And then obviously we're going to have some pre-tax. The airline contributions are going to that pre-tax 401k. So you can't really control that. You're going to get a good amount going in there anyways. So if we can diversify out of that a little bit, it can make a lot of sense to just set ourselves up to have some non-RMD classification money in retirement.
Absolutely, because I can't tell you how many times a financial professional I'm talking to says, "Oh, I had a client, say, why are you making me take my RMDs?" It's like, I'm not making you. Your financial professional is not making you. Yeah. Uncle Sam is making
Uncle Sam.
So, yeah,
that's right.
All right, doing very well here. How you guys doing? Playing along with our quiz? Do you getting these right? Hopefully so, and hopefully you're learning some stuff with Scott, kind of explaining the different answers here for you. What does the 4% rule refer to in retirement planning? Is it A, the maximum percentage you can contribute to a 401k? Is it B, a tax on high-income retirees? Is it C, a suggested annual withdrawal rate from your retirement portfolio? Or D, the penalty for early withdrawal from a Roth IRA?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I what comes to mind for me here is like the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the very first one where they're talking about the rules. And I forget the bad captain's name or whatever. He's like, they're more like guidelines.
Barbosa. And, Yes.
Yeah, Barbosa. Yeah, there you go. And, we always joke about that with our kids about what are rules versus what are guidelines. Like,
Right.
Hey, guidelines, there's some gray area, but this is more of a guideline than it is a rule, I would say. So this is not an IRS rule. It's not a tax. It's not a penalty based off of any distributions or anything. And it has nothing to do with the 401k contributions. It's absolutely just that suggested annual withdrawal rate from your retirement portfolio.
Yep.
Now, I will say this rule's been revisited a couple times. And actually, as the market has done better the last, candidly, 2 decades than it did the previous 2 decades, this rule has been updated to say, hey, maybe it's more like 5%, maybe even 6%. And basically, what the thought process is to this 4% rule is, hey, if I'm taking out 4% of my portfolio every year and the portfolio is averaging 7%, well, I'm able to let it grow and account for inflation. And I can continue to pull that 4% out and pay myself an inflation adjusted distribution and never run out of money.
Yeah, we just did an episode, Scott. Remember about 6 or 8 episodes back. If you guys want to go check that out, we can put a link in the show description to the updated 4% rule from the guy who created it. We even had a conversation around that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but again, this is one that to me, it's like, if you're just, dragging and dropping the cells on a spreadsheet, that's one thing, but that's not really the reality of how markets perform. It's not the reality of how you're going to spend your money. It's a good swag on like, hey, in general, how much money do I need to have in retirement? If you want to kind of reverse engineer, your target number, the 4% and help you get there. But that's what we're referring here to if you ever hear that. So
gotcha. Okay. I'm going to switch it up on you. We're going to go true or false for this next one.
Oh,
true or false. Target date fund is the best option that my company has for me to be in.
True or false. Anytime I see words like, just like in grade school, hey, if you see always or worst or best, you generally say false. So I'll go with false here.
Okay.
In really like the target date fund, I'm not saying they're bad. But are we aiming for, hey, I want a portfolio that's not bad, or are we aiming for a portfolio that we want to feel like could be best, And
yeah.
Something
adequate or serviceable versus best for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so most of the people that we work with and that we see and discuss this item with, they have a higher risk tolerance than what the target date funds are really allowing them to invest in. So obviously, if you have a higher risk tolerance and you can tolerate more volatility in the portfolio, generally speaking, you're going to be able to get better returns long term. And that's just not what the target date fund is designed to do. They're designed to be a little bit more conservative, and that's why an airline company's 401k plan is going to kind of dictate that somebody based off their age is going to get enrolled into this more conservative fund. It's not necessarily bad, but just again, is it in your best interest for the time horizon, the risk tolerance, and the amount of investing and saving that you're doing might not be best. So I'll go with false on that one.
Very good. Very good. All right. So I'm going to go back to one more multiple choice here and we'll wrap it up. And I'm going to give you a layup, even though you've crushed these and knocked it right out of the park. I'm going to give you a pretty easy layup for all of our listeners as well. What is the financial risk many retirees face? Is it A, outliving their money, B, paying too much in taxes, C, miscalculating healthcare costs, D, being overexposed to risks in the market, or E, the layup, all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, again, back to those grade school tests. If at least 2 of them make sense, you just go with all of the above. So I'll go with E, all of the above. But let me unpack these a little bit here. So, I mean, paying too much in taxes is obviously a risk. And more than anything, I think a lot of times it's just more of a concern or a pain in the butt kind of thing, too. I today have not had a client or somebody I'm working with that's like, because they're paying too much in taxes, their retirement fails. It's not so much that, it's more so, man, this is not the efficient retirement we were trying to build, right?
Right.
The healthcare cost is absolutely something that I think can definitely put a lot of downward pressure on somebody's retirement, especially if you didn't save enough or you don't have adequate insurance. That's something that can definitely manifest in a very different retirement for you, just due to the expenses associated with it. Outliving their money. Again, most of my folks, we're trying to make sure that they have a good income plan where they're finding that balance of, hey, I'm not going to outlive my money, but I'm going to spend and enjoy what I have too. So again, I'm sure there are people out there that are struggling with that or do struggle with it. Most of our folks, if we're finding early in the discovery process that they're going to be spending a ton of their money and run out, they're just not a good fit for what we teach. And then the last one here, being overexposed to risk in the market. I think this is absolutely something that's out there. This is hiding under the surface mark because the market's been so good for so long.
Right.
We've had quick downturns, but we haven't had an extended,
prolonged
3-4 year bear market recession in a couple decades.
Yep.
And so a lot of the folks that are retiring right now, when they look back at their mid 40-year-old self, they don't remember how much money they had. They don't remember, the recession. They had, a couple $100,000 in their 401k, not a couple million. So
it stung in 2008 when you got hit, but it didn't scare you like it might now because you're 20 years older or 16, 17 years older.
I mean, if your $50,000 401k went to $25,000, you were like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm refilling this thing in the next year anyways. If your $5 million portfolio went to $2.5 million, you are rethinking your life choices in a very drastically different way. It's with no time left to work either. Yeah. So that's one I think is definitely out there. And this is probably the biggest one that leads to some really bad decisions. Either I'm over indexed and I got my head in the sand that I'm not rooted in the reality of how volatile the market is. And that eventually this S&P 500 is going to get cut in half again. And B, because of that risk, they're over-indexed on the other side and they're sitting all in cash or money market, and so, and they're missing out on the long-term returns that they're going to need to keep up with the cost of living. So that's probably the biggest one I think is, creates the biggest issues for either losing a bunch of money or losing a bunch of purchasing power. And those are the two things we got to find the right balance to.
Absolutely. So just like in school, folks, the more we study our financial picture and understand how the pieces work together, the better hopefully our outcomes will be. And of course, working with a professional like Scott. So if you need some help, we got links in the show descriptions below. So reach out, get some time on his calendar. You can go to retireairlines.com. That's retireairlines.com. You can also pick up his toolkit. That's a great way to get started as well. You can call the number. So we got all that information below. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the content today and continue to enjoy the content. Hit subscribe on YouTube here, a thumbs up notification bell for new episodes, as well as check us out on audio form on Apple or Spotify or, whatever kind of podcasting app you enjoy using. Scott, thanks for hanging out, breaking it down. Well done, good sir.
Welcome back to school.
There you go. Back to school. We'll see you next time. And Molly's going to tell you how to get that retirement toolkit if you want. Check this out.
Hey everyone, real quick, if you haven't grabbed Scott's Financial Flight Control Toolkit yet, now is the time. This is packed with tons of helpful resources and tools like this, Scott's book, The Dichotomy of Wealth, which is a pilot's guide to maximizing wealth and cash flow in retirement. You also get access to some great guides like this one, Advice Matters, which breaks down 4 key ways a good financial advisor can help you boost your returns over time. And guides like this one on the pitfalls of emotions when it comes to investing, and this one on the HCM byline investment strategy, and more. So if you'd like your very own Financial Flight Control Toolkit, just click the link in today's show description, and Scott and the team will be happy to get one sent your way at absolutely no cost to you.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.